Hi, Prabhu.
Hi, Satish.
So, and welcome to everyone that is showing up for this LinkedIn Live, also being broadcast on YouTube Live.
We are
So,
excited. Satish, we are excited that we are live.
hey, we're live, that's great. So here's a quick background. I'm Satish. I'm the CEO and the co-founder at Connixt. With me is Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhu, co-founder and CTO at Connixt. Nice meeting you all.
So, just a quick background to those of us that don't know us, or at least Connixt has been in business for about 10 years now. We're a young company still, in primarily focused on mobile applications for maintenance, asset management, work management. Our product lives out on the shop floor, in the fields, and basically out in the open. So that's what we do. We integrate with a range of backend enterprise systems. We can also operate standalone. And we're right now here to talk about uh, one of the newest bolt-ons we've introduced called iBot, which works with our flagship product, the Connixt iMarq mobile app suite. And this is just essentially going to be a conversation between Prabhu and me, talking a little bit about the background to iBot, what it does today, what the plans are for the future, and of course, please pop in your questions, comments, and so on as we go forward. So, Prabhu, so one of the first things, right? And we've had this question come up a number of times with some of our prospects to some of our customers. A number of providers have already been talking about AI and ML and related technology. A bunch of announcements have been coming out for about a couple of years now.
Mhm,
But we launched iBot just this month. The
mhm.
Technology Maintenance Council, for those of you interested, on the, it's there on the blog and stuff. We launched it just this month. So the question is, why wait? Why not earlier? Why now? So maybe you can address that a bit, Prabhu.
Yeah, sure, Satish. Satish, this goes back to our philosophy, right? We don't do anything in our product just for the sake of technology. We take time, we talk to our customers, and when there is a new technology that comes in, unless it adds value to a customer, we don't want to introduce that in our product. So it goes back to making a mechanic or a technician life easier, or it generates revenue, additional revenue for the customers, and end of the day, it basically allows the mechanics and technicians to do the work they need to do, rather than spending time and researching stuff. So with all these things in mind, we took enough time, we talked to our customers, we validated our use cases, and then we are introducing this.
So that basically leads to this point, right? That the focus is first on the use cases,
Yes.
and and the technology is kind of the easier part. I'm not suggesting it is it's non-trivial, but
But it is easy. Yeah.
it is easier than this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, this leads us to, as a business, timing has to be right,
Yeah.
and we don't believe in build it and they will come. The basic question is really, rather than figure out will someone buy this new, the question is, are even our current customers ready for it? Folks
Yeah.
that are already using iMarq, for example, are they
Mhm.
willing to try something like this? That's really the big question.
Mhm.
So one thing I feel is kind of significant for us is we've had a number of conversations with our current customers and, let's say, soon to be customers, right? And I'm really glad. I mean, this is something we can be proud of, that a couple of even our newer customers have already signed up to implement and try out iBot even at this pre-launch stage, simply based on the progress we've made and on the use cases we showed. So maybe you can talk a bit about that, Prabhu, on the use
Sure.
cases. So,
Sure. Before even getting into the use case itself, why we say technology is easy, right? The reason for that is iMarq itself as a product, it's a configurable product. It's a 99% configurable product. And a couple years ago, we made enough changes to our framework, built in enough hooks so that we can extend to these other areas. And that's the reason why when we wanted to implement, the technology part was easy for us, but we spent a lot of time in the use case. Like we identified like five broad areas in which this can play a role: diagnostics, work instructions automation, language conversion, patterns recognition, and based on that doing some actions, and then sending alerts. Now sending alerts everybody does. but we want to send meaningful alerts, right? Where AI plays a role. So these are all the 5 areas we identified, and we also talked to our customers. Out of those 5 areas, 2 things we have already implemented in our product. The rest of it is in the product roadmap. We are introducing as we speak. So to get a little bit deeper into, I'm not going to go too deep because it's just a 30-minute conversation. So let's just have a bird's eye view of the use cases itself, right? Diagnostics. What is that we are going to do? Mechanics and technicians can ask questions to our app, in our app, and then it can come back with responses. Like, for example, my battery is draining, right, overnight. What could be the possible cause? I'm taking a very easy hypothetical case. Like this, any questions can be asked to the user, so that to the app, so that the app will respond saying that, hey, this could be the possible causes for this. Or they can even ask for instructions on changing an oil or changing a battery maintenance, things like that. Again, there will be suggestions made by the app. The final decision will be done by the customer itself or the technician itself, but there will be suggestions from the outside world. That is from the diagnostics perspective.
Mhm.
Work instructions automation, right? It was an interesting topic. When we brought this up to our customers, they were excited because they have so much instructions out there, and for us to go ahead and skim through those work instructions on a manual basis, it was tough. So we are planning to automate that using AI engines, saying that a user asks a question, we pick up the right work instruction and then show it to the users. Again, this work instructions can be from the outside world for customers who do not have any standard procedures that needs to be followed. For customers who have standard procedures in place, it will pick up from their set of documents and then it will bring it up. So because we deal with a lot of transit organizations which are kind of regulated in nature, so we cannot just like that go and open it up and ask the technician to do whatever that the app suggests, right? So we have standardized it that way. Those are our plans. Now, next is language, right? Now, I remember, I don't want to name the customer, but I remember one of the VPs was telling, "Hey, Prabhu, you know what, or Satish, you know what? Uh, I spend most of the time in understanding the comments from a user." So this is a real life situation where, when a person wants to enter comments in the app, right, in our configurable mobile app, they will feel comfortable in talking in their own language rather than talking in English sometimes, right? So we support that. We use AI engine to translate from any language to any language, so that end of the day we document in their own language and also in translated English language, and then it gets stored in the server, so that when a manager or a supervisor goes through the comments, it can make sense, right? It's again quality of work, quality of data, enriching data. It goes back to all those collecting accurate data from the technicians and mechanics, right? So any language to any language, multilingual support. So that we do, and it is again, when we demonstrated that to one of our customers, existing customers, they said, "Hey, I want to implement this. What it would take." And we are in process of implementing that. So those are all some of the use cases are pretty straightforward. It hits hard and it has a real life implementation, right? A real life use case.
So, Prabhu, before we move on to the couple of others, I know there's a
Yeah.
pattern in the alert. So, I think language is particularly interesting because, especially when you look at businesses that are, globally dispersed, and the workforce is also global, right?
Yep.
It is a real question as to, if you have, technicians or crew on the ground in Asia, in a particular region there, encountering a certain issue, and they have a question about how do we fix this or what is our standard process.
Yep.
Can they tap into documentation or a similar experience that has been documented, halfway across the world, perhaps in Europe?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, they can.
So
See,
this
yes.
is truly where I ask questions in my language. The system taps into the company's own database or goes and looks at the OEM's documentation and comes back and gives me that
Yeah.
information in the language I'm most comfortable in. or I
Yes.
can register comments which now get embedded in the system, which now somebody else can access from halfway across the world. I mean, this is truly powerful stuff. And again, we are so used to this in our day-to-day lives, right? We talk in one language and there's translators and all of these things. I mean, this is what we are bringing to work.
Correct.
Uh,
Satish, you remember that our visit to one of our customers, they asked a question in their own language. Again, I don't want to mention the language, but still, it's like when we showed it to the customer, not just grabbing documents, right? Diagnostics. They can ask questions in their own language.
yep,
Our app will respond in their own language, telling them, hey, this could be the possible causes. So all those combinations are possible, and those combinations are possible because we have implemented the AI engine, AI framework as part of our product.
yep, yep.
Now, going back to the next use case, Satish, is there anything else that you want to add?
No, no, no. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Now, the next use case is pattern recognition, right? Now, we collect so much data through our app. 50K transactions runs through our app on any given month. That means that much data is available to us, right? So we are implementing models in such a way that it recognizes the anomalies, right? Recognize the pattern on which, like for example, I'll again give you a simple use case: oil temperature, engine oil temperature, right? It suddenly shoots up, or radiator temperature suddenly shoots up. There is some issue with that asset, right? Now it follows a pattern, then we tap that, we try to create actionable steps where breakdown work order or a maintenance work order and things like that, right? Again, it's a hypothetical case, so we are implementing models so that we can recognize patterns and based on that take actions. And then the last but not the least, alerts and campaigns, right? One thing that we are planning to do is, or we are already implementing some portion of it, is where when we are sending alerts, right, for ordering parts, hey, your parts consumption is going down, it has not hit the reorder point, but at the rate at which it goes down, in a week you may have to place an order, right? Things like that, making it more intelligent. Previously, yes, we were automating purchase orders, yes, we were automating orders based on when the reorder point is being hit, but now we are extending it in such a way that, hey, based on that consumption pattern, it's not just today, but in a week you will be placing the order. So things like that is made possible because of this AI framework. Right? Recall campaigns. If there is a recall by an OEM, we are planning to tap into that information and then bring it as an alert. Now, in all these things, Satish, like we discussed earlier, in all these things, except for translation is one to one, right? It's apples to apples, so that's straightforward. Whereas all other diagnostic information or anything else of that nature, we give suggestions, we don't decide. So that's also a key aspect where we give guidance to the user. End of the day, it makes a mechanic and a technician life easier. And all these use cases are we ran it through our customers and then made sure it makes sense. And we are open enough where some use cases may get added, some use cases may get dropped if there is no use for a customer. So we believe in that. We don't do, again, just for the sake of technology, but unless there is a value add, we don't introduce that. And you know that, Satish.
So this is a great couple of points. So in fact, one, without going too deep into the mathematics or engineering rabbit hole, one thing I can say is, why is pattern recognition such a big deal? Uh, we could view this as simply automating manual tasks, but there are some things that are humanly impossible to do, right? Can you go through massive amounts of data and come out with a pattern to say that not only are you hitting the reorder point, which is all programmed and in the system, but each successive order, you're hitting it faster than before?
Yeah.
Or it is perhaps the other way around. Maybe you're hitting the reorder points later than normal, than you would. Then maybe you have to go back and look at the lead time. Maybe you have to look at other factors in there. I need brake pads more, during winter,
Yeah.
just like I need more umbrellas during, the rainy season. So this is interesting about
Right.
patterns and
And
alerts.
also, one other point I just want to add is, see, if there are 10 parts, 20 parts, spare parts, or 30 spare parts, it may not add that much
Yeah,
value. But we are talking customers who are having thousands of parts, right? Thousands, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 parts. Now, for a human to go and skim through and take a decision on this, it's impossible. So that is where these kinds of solutions come in, and it goes back to the use case and validity and value add and all those things.
I think it's as you can probably say, and as when people see this, we're pretty excited about the possibilities that still presents. So
Yeah.
let's switch gears just for a moment, right? We've talked about the things that we are planning and that we can do. I want to talk for a second about all the things that AI broadly and iBot specifically cannot do.
Yeah.
So one, you already pointed to this. Obviously, it can't actually do the work of fixing, repairing, or inspecting
Yeah.
on the field. I mean, and that's or in the workshop that is still dependent on human beings and their ingenuity in interpreting data that is presented to them, or interpreting suggested action that is presented to them.
Yeah.
And even more obviously, much like a GPS, it cannot substitute for you as the driver seeing that the bridge in front of you is incomplete, or that the road that the GPS is asking you to take actually leads into a lake.
Hmm.
So do make sure, I mean, this is a standard disclaimer. I think everybody would do well to heed that uh, these are suggestions. You can use this as guidance, and the guidance is more accurate than, based on the data that is presented, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's one angle to just keep in mind.
Yeah. And again, just to re-emphasize, right? We don't decide, we suggest. We
Yeah.
give directions. We don't decide. We don't want to decide. End of the day, the technician and the mechanic and the customer has to decide. Number one. Number two is, we basically don't want to replace a human. That's not our goal. But we help them, or we make their life easier. That's
Yep.
the reason why we do all these bolt-ons where, hey, in fact, we have barcode scanning as part of our app. Nothing to do with AI, but barcode scanning. Why we do it? We make their life easier, right? So that we always emphasize on. I should bring this up, Satish. When we met one of our customers, we went and told, hey, we can also automate work instructions. He told, hey, don't touch my work instructions because it is regulated. I cannot ask my technicians to follow your work instructions. They have to follow our work instructions, right? That was an excellent point he brought up. We also told him that, hey, you can do diagnostics with this. Then he said, yes, that is the area that I can use, but not on the work instruction side, because you have to use my own work instructions. That time, we mainly pointed that our product is configurable, so we can tap into his work instructions and then show to the mechanic. Again, this goes back to the use case, and this also, we want to re-emphasize this again. We are not going to decide, we are going to suggest. Our app is going to suggest, to make the life easier for the mechanics and technicians.
So I think this is a really important point we come to, right? This is especially useful for what you might call. I mean, there is some things you're trying to automate when you put in something like iBot, that are every day, right? Do I have to go and pick up manuals and read them, or do I have to skim through pages? Those things are kind of pretty standard within the product. But it is especially useful when you start looking at the outlier cases, right? I've not seen this problem before. Who else has encountered this problem, either in my own company halfway across the world,
Yeah.
or out is the OEM telling something about this that can be useful to me. I mean, these are interesting things, which sort of leads me, as we go towards towards the end of this. We're starting to get some questions, so I do want to be mindful of that.
Yeah,
Um,
Satish, before that, just a very quick thing, Satish. With one of our prospects, right? This happened. This is not a customer, it's a prospect. To emphasize on, in fact, that is it hard to use kind of question is also coming. But again, no, it is not hard to use. We can demonstrate that. But having said that, see, we were doing this demo to one of our prospects, right? They came back and told, hey, by the way, you guys are showing with some of the AI platforms out there. We are developing our own GPT engine. Can you guys integrate? The immediate answer was yes. You know why? Because we made our configurable product. We made our product to be configurable enough so that as long as there is API to access, we can configure our product to utilize the GPT engine of that customer itself, which is again goes back to what Satish was mentioning, right? Which is tapping into their own information, their own resources, and then coming up with suggestions. Go ahead, Satish. Sorry.
So no, this actually is a great segue to the last couple of points I want to make before we wrap up, right? So do we know all of the use cases that we are going to implement? The answer is no. Clearly no. I wish we could say that the path is very clear. These are the only five things we'll do, and these are the only ways in which those five things will be done. Because what we have done is we have built the hooks that can help with whatever the future may throw up. So that's the flexibility of our core product, iMarq, as well as what we have also built into iBot. And I think, Prabhu, as you pointed out, the hooks can be, for example, to different as yet unknown AI engines
Yeah.
that may come up in the future,
Yep.
uh, including the company's own AI engine, right?
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
so on a broad basis, either go search literally the whole World Wide Web
Yep.
or your own company's database or the OEM's announcements. I mean,
Yes.
depending on how narrow, what hooks you want to say.
Yes.
This leaves
Like,
me. Sorry,
sorry,
go ahead.
like tomorrow, Freightliner comes up with their own GPT engine. We will tap into that GPT engine because
Yes.
they have even more accurate data, right? So, just as an new flyer, electric bus, they come with their own GPT engine. We will tap into that, and our product will become is configurable, so we can tap into all these different engines.
So the last thing before I go to my last point, somewhat related to this, right? As newer asset categories come into play, for example, we've talked about EV vehicles, mass transit, or self-driving vehicles, or new technology. I think this becomes even more interesting to see what are the new kinds of issues, because we're after all replacing technology that's over 120 years old. When we move away from internal combustion engines to something else, so that's 120 years worth of data that we cannot tap into anymore, right? So I think this becomes especially interesting, right? How quickly can we grab data from around the world
Yeah,
and make sense out of it, right?
grab meaningful data. So,
Meaningful data and convert to actionable intelligence.
yes, yes, yes.
So the very last question, and this is just a sort of a quick kind of a summary of many of these things, right? The biggest question we encounter when we go and talk to some of our clients, especially within the C-suites, is what the basic question of ROI, right? And it sort of leads to the basic question of why. Why should anyone be interested in this? And to be candid, Prabhu, you and I hear this very frequently when we go to customers, right? Hey, we have to walk before we can run, so don't come and
Yeah,
talk to me about AI and all of these things now.
yeah,
We're just starting to crawl, and let's give us some time, and then we can go to the next stage. I think we need to bring it back to the basics, right? Increase revenue, reduce cost, mitigate risk. I mean, these are three core areas that we are focused on.
yeah,
It goes back to how do we use technology today in our personal lives? Is it making life easier for us? And what does that translate to? And for businesses, the impact is high because we reduce time spent on non-value added tasks, as you were saying, Prabhu. Ease of communication across geographies and languages, onboarding and training and retaining employees. How easily can you transfer knowledge to new employees? Because from a business standpoint, we are capturing a ton of information from the field as the crew sees it and experiences it, and in the language, in the mode they are most comfortable with, whether it's photograph, typed text, spoken, speech to text, or simply recording audio, whatever it is. And that's basically enriching data, ensuring accuracy, and all in real time.
yeah,
Uh, in my mind, that basically drives value, and I think that's sort of the goal we are driving towards.
yeah.
So, it's been fun while this has lasted, Prabhu, and we should do this more often. So, to everybody listening out there, we do have a beta sign up URL, at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead, give it a shot, try this, or scan the QR code. The one thing we can say is that this is working today. It is not theory, it is not PowerPoint where, to put it mildly. So this is stuff that is working. So happy to address any questions. Pop those questions out to us either here or on LinkedIn later, or directly reach out to us. But happy to address those. But otherwise, any parting words or thoughts, Prabhu?
No, I'm good. I think we pretty much discussed on all the areas that we need to cover, Satish. One thing I would like to is it hard to use? I just want to reemphasize. This goes back to again our philosophy where you just talk to the app. The rest will be done by the app. Even for talking to the app, with 2 clicks, you will be able to get the answer, whether it is translation or diagnostic information, whatever you want, within 2 clicks, you will be able to. It is that easy. Please reach out to us so that we can demonstrate it to you.
Well, with that, I'm going to close this LinkedIn Live session. This has been a super interesting 30 minutes, and we're glad that some of you chose to listen in on one of Prabhu and my conversations here. Thanks everybody for joining in, and as reach out to us if you have questions or if you'd like to give iBot a try.
Yeah.
Take care. See you.
Thanks. Bye.